Hello and welcome to Actors with Pens episode 3. I am so excited about this series. The first episode, I featured Heidi von Palesk and Adrian Hugh. The second episode, I featured Tony Napo. And hello, Kirk. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I like to say you were right on time. You were right in there. Today or this evening, I am featuring the amazing Kirk Bowett. I'm going to let him come in and pronounce his name. I worked with this amazing man, and I'm hoping I pronounce his name right. So let's bring Kirk in here so I can crack my beer. Hello, Nance. Thanks for joining. Oh, hello. Okay, let's get Kirk in. So here we go. And we will see how this goes.
Oh, there we are. All right. Oh, brilliant. Hello. How are you? How cool is this? Oh, brilliant. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you. You're like a professional.
No. Well, I'm always on time because I'm an ex-soldier, aren't I? So we always used to be, we used to get in trouble for not being on time. So I'm making sure I'm here. How are you? Right. So it's really late over here. It's 11:30 at night in England.
I appreciate you doing whatever you had to do to make sure you were perky and ready to go.
I did. I had a little afternoon nap because at my age we have to have afternoon naps now. But no, it's really lovely. So over in Canada, do you guys do much over Easter? What do you do for Easter? Do you have like egg and spoon races and chasing rabbits and stuff?
Well, we do a lot of that. My kids are a bit older now, so I think we're going to do one more Easter egg hunt Sunday morning to see. I think it's more about the game of it.
Yeah.
I think that time's gone. I think they still haven't admitted that Santa Claus, that they're onto it, because I think they're worried that the
never
president.
Ever. Two things you don't ever declare is Santa Claus doesn't exist and the Tooth Fairy. I remember discovering that the Tooth Fairy didn't exist because I think, what did I do with the money? I think the money didn't appear one night under my pillow and I didn't question it. So I still tell my mum now I believe in the Tooth Fairy. I don't get any more though. So it's been so long. I mean, it's 2019, wasn't it? We were last together.
Now, before we start, I've been waiting. I always start my lives cracking a Guinness. What do you got there, my friend?
I'm on Prosecco tonight.
Yeah.
Just to bring me back to life. Just wake me up a little bit.
Amazing. Well, cheers.
This is our celebration. This is our post-COVID celebration, pretty much. Yeah. Because I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how we got to meet each other. And then about what happened after the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is so interesting, by the way. So that.
Yeah. So I was working. I was working for Netflix. Do you guys have Bridgerton over in Canada?
Yes.
Do you guys have Bridgerton? Oh. Right. So I was location managing Bridgerton all summer that 2019, and I was getting a bit burnt out with it because when you work on a TV show. Oh, wait a sec. Oh, it's going to pop. It's going to go. It's going to go. It's going to go.
Oh,
no. The neighbours are like, oh. Oh. Here we go.
You're a survival expert, and sometimes I'm sure you don't always have the proper glass. So drinking from the bottle, I mean, you got to kind of do what you have to do.
You got to go with what you got, hey.
That's right.
You got to do it. Yes. So I was working for Netflix, and I wanted a break. And what was really nice was I got asked to come and do the play Soldier On. And it was like, oh, back on stage, that'd be really good. And I down tools on set with Netflix and met you guys in rehearsals in Hammersmith in London.
Yeah.
with all the crowd, and it was so nice because it was like 50-50 Canadian, British, you know, and we all got on really well, didn't we? It was such a good crew of people with Merle and Johnny and Roland who organised it all, and you know what a great time we all had. And you know, we got over to Toronto, and the first week of the run was brilliant, wasn't it? And then first part of the second week, everybody started falling ill with this mysterious bug.
So before you start on that, I want you to tell us like what we're talking about. Like so I think okay. So in 2019, there was this play.
That
had done a run in the UK, done very well, written and directed by Jonathan Lewis.
Yeah.
Amazing. So Jen and Roland Gossage had brought it. They were going to bring it to Canada, and so I remember. So before we get into the COVID bit, let's give everybody the history. I remember it's even though I trained for the stage, it was the first time I was cast in a play professionally.
Oh, really?
So exciting!
Oh.
Yeah, so exciting.
You look like a fish in water. You look, you know.
Well, and it was nerve-wracking because, you know, anyway, but the exciting part was 3 weeks rehearsal in the UK. So I was going to get to go to London, you know, to the UK, and I was going to get to rehearse this play and meet. That's where I met you.
You did?
And
yeah,
the rehearsals were incredible. And then so we brought it back to Canada, performed it at Canadian Stage for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Late November, early December in
That's
2019. Right. So that's
the
history. So I just wanted to give everybody that. So carry on, sir.
Yeah, but to finish off on that, we very nearly didn't finish the show, did we? Because loads of people fell really ill with a mysterious flu-like symptoms. Now, I never get flu. I consider myself as a pretty healthy guy, and I was not for sick. I was bedded down in the lovely apartments overlooking the CN Tower. And as we flew back to the UK, I thought, no, that isn't flu. That's something different. That's weird, that. So I flew back to the UK, and as you know, as a freelancer working in the film industry, all the work dried up because, you know, this mysterious bug was going around. And by March, Boris Johnson in the UK called a lockdown. So we all went to lockdown, and I was living on a narrowboat in London at the time, and I was on this boat thinking, right, I'm on the boat, middle of nowhere, on the boat with no work coming in. What should I do now? So I had a bit of a change in direction. I've actually ended up now. I'm now back with the military. I've come full circle, you know, and I'm now working. I'm up in Lincolnshire, well, about an hour from London, and for the last 2.5 years, well, nearly 3 years now, I've been working in combat survival. So I do the survival stuff with the military air crews, which it's a fascinating job. I love it, and for me it's like a culmination of my career, really. It's come full circle on the whole thing, and you know the genre that is survival. It's not just the old bushcrafty whittling wood and all that sort of stuff. It covers everything. There's not a subject out there that you learn that probably doesn't have a bit of survival in it. You know, whether it comes to science or psychology, you know, art, design, maths, whatever. There's something in there that's going to get you out of a fix, out of a stick. So I love it, and so I've been doing it for about 1.5 years, and then I thought, screw it, I'm going to write about it. Yeah, so that's where I'm at now. But the whole journey started with me before I was born, really, because that's where it all starts, doesn't it? It starts before you're born, and it starts with your parents. And my folks were actually living in Canada. They were actually over in Nova Scotia. My dad from Manchester had seen. He was a mechanic. He worked on the big rigs as a mechanic. And in England, the work was pretty tight in the 70s. 1970s, crikey, that's the whole other century ago. That's how old we are. So they moved out to Nova Scotia, and my mum really didn't like the weather. You know, it's quite tame in the UK. It's wet and drizzly, and we do get a bit of snow, but nothing like you guys do over there. So my sister and I were born, and he began to drink really heavily. He was an alcoholic, a functioning alcoholic, and he just was out drinking all the time with his mates. And my mum packed her bags one day and came back over to the UK with me and my sister. I was, barely a year old. And about 6 months later, my dad came back with his tail between his legs, having, sort of the dreams had all been scuppered, and the idea of a new life and all that had gone down the pan. And about another year later, he died in a car crash with a couple of mates from the local town, a drink driving crash, and that sort of ripped the town apart. There was 5 of them in the car, 2 seriously injured and 3 killed, and that's 5 families destroyed. And in the 70s, early 80s, drink driving was a sport. Everyone did it. It just wasn't a thing. It wasn't. I don't even think it was illegal. It was just.
I grew up in a small town, and there was no cabs. There was none of that. Like we lost people because of that, and it was a different world for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's something with time, but it's something that lived with me because as a 4-year-old, just seeing the police turn up at the door, and this male, the male part of my life had disappeared.
Yeah.
And I was brought up by my grandparents, really, who were World War II generation. They were like, in their 60s, late 60s by then, so I had these traditional values within me. But I didn't have a father figure. And the lack of father figure was a real void in my life. So at 16, and in a rough part of Manchester where we were living, all of the male role models were either gangsters or coppers. You either went on one side or the other, and I didn't want to go on go on either side because neither were that trustworthy. So I found myself migrating towards the military, and in the UK at the time we had a domestic war going on. We had the IRA in Northern Ireland. They were bombing mainland UK. The big shopping centre in Manchester had been blown up. In Warrington, about 10 miles down the road, they killed 2 young boys by putting a bomb in a bin. So I was seeing this as a teenager, thinking, who are these gits? I want to blooming sort them out. And my regiment, I was too young to join at the time. I was only 15. We're actually in Bosnia doing peacekeeping work out there with blue UN berries on. And I saw these guys on the news and thought, God, they're blooming heroes, them guys, And they were doing things like evacuating villages where they were going to, be slaughtered by Serbs. And, they were basically, to me, were heroes. So I joined the infantry at 16. I was a boy. A 16-year-old boy joining the combat infantry, and it was a big eye opener because I was joining with guys that were in their mid-20s, and a 16-year-old boy and guys in their mid-20s, they're men and I am a boy. I was fairly fit, but I did get all the the tough gigs. I got sent on the run, and I basically had 3 years of being completely bullied until I stood my ground. I remember. They'd have these, they call them, the Americans call them code reds or whatever, where you get beasted by the senior blokes or whatever. And I remember this fundamental moment where I thought, I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
And I think I was about, just before I was turning 18, I thought, I'm sticking up for the ground because I'm sick of being treated like the little git. And I just stood up and said, listen, I've had enough of this. And they were putting all the rubbish in my room and making me go and take it to the bins. And I got all the crap duties, and one of the guys offered me a fight, and I said, okay, come on then, and he backed down, and I thought, oh, here we go, all that and not much of that. So that was like a big learning curve for me, and it was pretty tough learning. It's tough learning in the military, you're learning very quickly, and I found as soon as I turned 18 I was in Northern Ireland. So that
before you continue, I just want to tell you, one of my dear friends, poet friend, the Musing Palette, served in the military, and she's here with us. And she said, "Oh yes, hazing for sure." So I don't know if you're seeing the comments, but
hazing, yeah, that's what they call it. It isn't hazing, but that was a big common thing, sort of right up until the British military is really good now. Actually, they've really tightened down on that sort of stuff, and really good guys and girls were left because of stuff like that, because it was just bullies, and they weren't necessarily very good when they got on ops, but that was just the culture at the time. And I found myself in Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland, it was this domestic conflict going on, and it was you know, it's still the UK, you know, English speaking, well, Northern Irish speaking, and the divide between Catholic and Protestant, and lots of patrolling, lots of rainy nights, long hours, and it really was a coming of age thing for me because we had, you know, riots. You know, the first time I got shot at was on a riot, you know, where tracer rounds come over your head, and patrolling down a road at night time and shine your torch into a culvert and finding a bomb that could blow up the local hotel, and we cordoned that. So that was like our normal life. You know, it was a war, but it was this sort of stop, like normal. You'd walk through a town where there's shopping going on, yeah, and then, you know, a bomb would go off. You know, and it was just went from, you know, peace and quiet and calm to that. And this was all just before the Good Friday Agreement was brought about. So that happened in 1998 off the back of the Omagh bombing. So we had the IRA had a massive own goal. They basically stole a car, put some fake number plates on it, filled it full of explosives, and the intelligence guys had their eye on it, and then it disappeared, and then it was parked up in the town called Omagh, and the centre of the town was destroyed and killed 26, I think it killed. So it's a real big, and the people in Northern Ireland were like, we've had enough of this. On both sides of the divide, they were like, you know, this is stupid now. We need to get beyond it, which was great because we just wanted to see peace. You know, we'd put so much effort into it. You know, this lock.
To remind everybody, if I may, Kirk, just so this is all. So you joined, and this was your first tour. Like, would you call it a tour?
Yeah. And it first operational tour of duty. And back in them days, we did 2-year tours. So a residential tour was literally living in the country on and off duty. Yeah. And when we were off duty, you would do things like you drive your car, and you'd have to check under your car to make sure bombs weren't planted underneath it. And, you know, one of you guys, if you went out for a drink, you'd want a guy to carry a pistol because if there's something happened or whatever. So it was all that, you know, it was all that going on. But that was normal. That was normal life, you know. And I look back at it now and feel how lucky we are now not to have that. You know, we've not got that going on. So the good bite. I honestly can't imagine. And I think about like where I was when I was 16 and what I was doing. You know, it's just incredible. And just I can't imagine. So that, you know, out the gate, you know, that's where the problem with that is, Janaya, is the guys when we get to our age, I'm mid-40s now, still got Peter Pan going on. So I didn't get a chance to get it out of my system. You know, like most people go off to university and they get it out of their system in their early 20s. Because we had so much responsibility, most of the guys and girls that were doing what we did were still Peter Pan. You know, we didn't grow up because we didn't have a chance to get it out of our system. So we'll go a bit Peter Pan later on.
That's chapter 1. You know, and so, you know, you and I did not script this. We're going to work our way through all of this. You know, you were where do you want to do this? Do you want to like go through bits of your bio as we go through, or do you want to give it to everybody? Because, you know, the play that we did was called Soldier On.
Yeah.
And so do you want to finish your bio first and then maybe get into the acting, because we should go in order, or do you want to go back and forth because it's very
let's talk a little bit about acting, actually. Let's talk about acting, and I'll tell you about my next war that I was in. Okay. All right. So I'd had a conversation the other day with a couple of the young. They're going to be pilots, and they're all wearing a uniform. They've got all the badges on, and I was talking about acting in your life. You know, what you use acting? And one of the guys, Jordan, he said, "Oh, I could never be an actor." And I said, "Well, you're being an actor now." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you sat there in front of me with uniform on, and you've got your sergeant stripes, and you're being Sergeant Jordan, and you're not Sergeant Jordan, you're Jordan. But when you walk out the door and put your berry on and strut round camp, you are acting. You're being, you know, you've got a costume on, and that's exactly what it is." And his wife, actually, she's a police officer, And I said, when your wife goes on duty, she's acting. She's being an actor.
Yeah.
And we talked about actually how good military people are at public speaking, because we were always very good at speaking in front of lots of people. So unlike a lot of people in the corporate environment, and I found this when I got out the other end and I was working in London, was these CEOs and company bosses, they're only ever used to talking to a boardroom, which is maybe 12 people.
Yeah.
And the moment you throw them in front of anybody more than 12, they'd crumble. And it's like, well, actually, I was, when I was 20, 30, 20 to 25, I was in front of 200-300 guys giving them a briefing about what was going on here or going on there. And so we were thrown to the wolves in the military. So, it was always very rigid,
Yeah.
and now I'm back in the mix when they're giving their rigid talks and speaks, and you can see people nodding off in a lesson, or it's like, guys, put some of your personality into it. Be yourself. Don't be this. And I think what it is when I speak to anybody, it's like, oh yeah, I did acting at school, I did it at college, but I don't do it anymore. And for some reason, I think what happens is when you become an adult, you become shy. You put on this shield, and that embarrassment happens. It's like, where did that happen? Did it happen at teenage level when I was, when I became 15, 16, 17, suddenly became very self-aware. I can see it with my daughter, because she's 11 going on 12 now. She's starting to go, she used to didn't give a crap about what people thought. Now it's really important to her. And it's like, and actually it's a bit of a, if you can't get over that, it can really put you in a corner. And I think a lot of people end up in a corner and they go, I can't. And it goes into other parts of their life. They end up getting that job and they don't go for the next job because they don't feel confident enough to go and do it. For me, go on.
I agree with you about, at what point in our lives does that self-conscious set in?
Yeah.
Like I look at my young children and how, there was this freedom, and then, my daughter's 13 now. She'll be in a couple.
Yeah.
And it's changing. Like things are embarrassing. Like it goes back to everything. Like, mommy, you're no longer allowed to hold my hand when you drop me off at school. I mean, we all have different.
Yeah.
But that you're very well spoken and you present yourself very well, and so you're saying you attribute that to your military training, do you think? Like in the beginning?
Yeah, there's a combination of that. There's I remember I was working at my uncle's corner shop, and we've got a TV show in the UK called Open All Hours, and there's this stingy corner shop open, which is my uncle Philip, and I was his delivery boy, called Granville and Arkwright, and I was on my little bike, and my other great uncle was a guy called Norman Rosington, and he was an actor. And I didn't realise, I thought he'd only done panto in the local theatre. I remember him coming into the shop and I was covered in potato, soil where I'd been packing the spuds. And he'd go, oh, Kirk, he said, you don't want to do that job. It's going to give you rough hands. And if you do a job like me, you'll open doors. I'm like, what are you, Uncle Norm? He said, I'm an actor. And I didn't realise, actually, he's been in over 200 films.
Wow.
Anything in the 1950s, from Carry On Films, The Longest Day, these IMDb's as long as your arm, and he died the year I joined the army, actually, and I didn't. I'll come back to him later on when I'm recovering in hospital, because a large part of my journey back to acting is because of the person I am now following my injuries, because I'm not the person I used to be. My character's completely different, and that's a lot.
And on the,
but going back to acting in the military, so we'd always go on manoeuvres, and we'd be in the places like the desert. We'd be out in Jordan in the desert, and we'd be about 150 of us all out on patrol. And then you'd always have that arsehole officer who was a real git, and the guys would always have a little bit of a chat about him, and there'd always be one guy that was really good at impersonating, and my regiment was full of Scousers, and they'd all be like, they'd do this Scouse thing, and they did the skits, we've always had, and this goes back. This is an old naval tradition. Did you know that? Did you know theatre and the Navy have got really close links?
Interesting.
Yeah, so the theatre and the Navy. So when you talk about the rigging, which is on the backstage for your the sheets and the sails,
Yeah.
and then you've got your ship's company and you've got your theatre company. It's all maritime. It's all a maritime thing, because when they're on the boats, they would do shows. They would do shows to pass the time, because we're at sea and there's nothing else to do.
There was
So
no internet.
Yeah, yeah. So the army do the same. So going right back to the day, when the British Army formed, sort of 1600s, they'd always have these shows the guys would do amongst themselves, and there'd always be a Dane. There'd always be the Dane, and so I remember being out in the desert, and for some reason, I don't know why, but there's always a guy that's got full suspenders and stockings and tights, and we're in the middle of this desert, and then the next thing there's a drag act, and we're like, where the hell has he got full suzzies and suspenders in the middle of the desert, and he's strutting up and down? And it's like, but it was so funny, because all of the misdemeanors and stuff that had happened over like the course of the exercise over the last 6 or 7 weeks, that become a Mickey take, and it's like this survival mechanism. It was basically what we call a roast. We call it a roast, and you'd be able to sit down with all of the ranks from major right down, and they'd sit there and have to take a roast. And it was a really good. It was like a feedback loop, and it was able the chain of command to understand what the blokes thought about them.
Right. The roast, to be able to sit
Yeah.
there and take.
And if you can sit through a roast, then you get respect from your guys, And we'd sit in the desert, and I remember the best ones would be able to sit there and laugh at themselves. And some of my guys were the best actors, the best. They'd do it to a T, they'd do it to a T, or even better, with the funny bit on it. Because at the end of the day, if you can't laugh at yourself, then you're flawed, aren't you? And so during my whole career, during my whole military career, the acting always came in. I didn't know it was acting.
Yeah.
I couldn't put the note, but I always knew that I was performing. I was performing a role. Treating a casualty in combat. And I'm scared, and I'm going into a building. This guy's got his leg hanging off. I've got to be confident, and I've got to be able to put that tourniquet on, and that's an act. The medic going in and dealing with the casualty, the paramedic, they're performing. So actually, when we go on stage, we've got it easy. We've got it easy. What can go wrong? The light rigging falling on your head or whatever. But if I was to look back at what I've had to do in my career and then stand on stage, then that's the enjoyable bit. The enjoyable bit is standing on stage, because it's the fun. It's the fun side of it now.
Yeah. If I could just back here, just to so speaking of on stage was so interesting, because it was my first time, but I'll tell you, it was terrifying for me a little bit, because of the whole singing thing. And I'm sure you recall how hard
yes, you did. But you did really well, because you were supposed to be killing the song, weren't you?
So
is that right?
Just add a bit of humor from me. But it sounds like you had before your life, but when you became an actor, because I came into acting late as well. But it sounds like you had all sorts of opportunities where that was something that you knew that it was in you, And I just find that really.
Yeah. Well, during the military career, it was great. It was great. Well, I used to always role play as a kid. We'd always play cops and robbers as kids or whatever, and we'd always create scenarios. And I remember we were there's a group of us at school, and we all loved Monty Python sketches. We always loved Monty Python. And I'm watching at the moment. I'm watching Blackadder. I've got the Blackadders on the go. I love them, and they're great because you can pin stuff on it. Yeah. But going back to my career, Northern Ireland, the Good Friday Agreement came in, and we thought as soldiers, I think I'd been in about 7 or 8 years by then, and I was like, we're in for a good time now. It's going to be long weekends every weekend. I'm going to have a great career. There's going to be nothing. It's going to be a safe sort of 10, 12 years. I'll get a nice pension, and off we go. And we were in Jordan. We're actually out in the desert in Jordan, and I've been out on the ranges with the guys shooting. And I came back into the big tent where the dining hall was, and there was a few guys in the corner with the tea and coffee. And there's a little telly in the corner, and they're all huddled around this TV watching the telly. And I looked over the shoulder, going, "Oh, what are you watching there, guys? Is it new? Is it a new like action film?" And they were watching the Twin Towers. They were watching the planes going to the Twin Towers.
Oh,
And I looked over, and one of the guys turned around to me. Say again?
You were in Jordan during that time?
Yeah, we were actually in the desert training. So after the first Gulf War, we always kept a presence in the desert around Saddam because we knew that he'd invaded Kuwait sort of 10 years prior, and they were suspecting him of weapons of mass destruction. So we were keeping a presence, and all the UN guys were over in there. And the RAF had a no-fly zone over the country, so you couldn't fly stuff in and fly out. So there's loads of sanctions over there. And so we spent quite a lot of time desert training. We had the desert combats on. And so I'm stood in this tent watching 9/11 happen, thinking, well, that's scuppered my plans for a peaceful, next 10 years. But we didn't immediately go to Iraq or Afghanistan. We rotated out. We didn't get back to... I went to Iraq for the first time in 2004. And that was on Operation Telic 4, and it was just after the invasion. The Iraqi army and police had all run away, and we turned up in Iraq with basically a load of civilian population that we just didn't know what was going on. And it was sort of what they hadn't done is once the invasion now happened, they didn't think of a strategy to like try and build the country up afterwards. So we were sent out to do all sorts of things like go and take a load of footballs for the kids, and patrol round and hearts and minds and try and clean up the streets. And it was a right old mess. We were down in Basra in southern Iraq, and that's when the militia started to rear their ugly heads. We had Muqtada al-Sadr and the Mahdi army, and we've got do you know Piers Morgan? When I say Piers Morgan, do you know what about? Piers Morgan was editor of the Mirror newspaper, and the guys that were in a couple of tours before us, they'd actually killed a prisoner. They put a sandbag over his head, and he'd suffocated. And that had all reverberated, and basically a load of footage got in the newspapers about this, and we had a full-on attack. The whole country. It's very much like when the Americans had their Vietnam, they had the Tet Offensive. It was like that. Right across the country, all the bases got attacked. We had more mortar attacks coming in, RPGs, and that was my really sort of like first time of. We're in a war zone, proper war zone. I'm getting shot, and I'm up in the Sangha and I'm shooting, and my gun machine gun is shooting, and so that was the next. My military career gone up a notch, and
just to sort of get, where I was when I found out the news about the Twin Towers. I was coming out of the Toronto International Film Festival.
Oh,
right. Film, and I got. In a parking lot, in a parking garage, and I was pulling out, and it was an East Indian fellow working the booth.
Yeah.
Howard Stern was on the radio, and he's the one I heard the news from because the radio was on the car. And I was listening, and I pulled up to pay my ticket, and the man behind the booth went, "I'm so sorry," and he was nervous.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What are you nervous about? You didn't do it."
Yeah. Well, we had it was a real uncertain time, wasn't it? It was like I would say when you talk about sort of milestones in what's going on in our recent history, we've had 9/11, and then the next one is the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah.
We're having this thing where we're at a time in now, sort of post 9/11, and then Russia invaded Ukraine a year ago. We were going, right, what's next? What's going on? And generally, I don't think people knew. And I remember that only recently we get a lot of lectures from quite high-ranking RAF guys, and they called the invasion of one of them. He was a pilot for years. He called the invasion of Iraq and obviously once they got bin Laden, they called it an allergic reaction to 9/11, and I think that's quite fitting because both Iraq and Afghanistan didn't go the way they wanted it to go. Both countries, we've ended up with tons and tons of money thrown into these countries with the you know, the idea of bringing about democracy, but actually we've ended up back at square one, and it's typical Western thing going on, you know. And so, you know, going back to 2004, we had no mission plan. You know, we're out there, we're in the middle of the desert. I'm seeing loads of oil and gas. You know, they just caught Saddam. It's like, right, we've got Saddam now, so what do we do next? So I started to think about, you know, questions started rearing in my head. And then we started to lose guys, and, you know, started to get the first fatalities of your own guys. That's when you're thinking, it's you know, as a human being, you're going, what's this all about? And I distinctly remember we had this convoy called Op Certain Death, and it was the water convoy, and it would come through the streets in Basra, and it would always get shot at. They'd put pot shots at it, and it'd be like a sieve. You get in, you'd have to put tape over the Bowsers to get enough water around the convoy, you know, around the bases. And on this one particular trip, I remember speaking to the young drivers in the trucks, and they weren't even armoured. They were in these big lorries. They were painted sandy colour. They had, you know, they had the mesh over the screen so the bricks couldn't get in. And I remember we're driving in the armoured car ahead of them, and the vehicle goes up in the air with a puff of smoke, and I knew it had been hit by an IED, so I ran out the back, and the door was already open, and this guy's at my head height, and I'm trying to put his leg back on, like a Lego, you know, like a Lego toy. And I'm thinking, there's something else I need to do. Oh, tourniquet, get a tourniquet on him, you know. And we dragged into the HLS, and the helicopter came in, and, you know, we had to get a load of tourists off. There's a load of people with cameras, journalists, get them off the helicopter, get him on. It was real. That's shambolic, but it was like most of it was unexpected.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the first time this had happened, the first time that had happened. So we were learning on our feet, and I look back at it, and leave a look at the kit that we had, and it was like pretty rubbish, you know, compared to the stuff the guys have got now. So we rotated out of there. I went and trained recruits for a few years, and again, training recruits is you're being an actor. You know, you stood in front of them, and you're taking these young people, and you're trying to mould them to do a job that's very dangerous, and give them the confidence to do it. And you're going to have to give them the tools to do it, and it's putting on that performance, you know, that you know, dragging them through, and physically being, you know, strong enough for the show, you know, crawling up a trench and posting a grenade and doing basically the most difficult job in the military, I'd say. So our regiment, I went from the Cheshire Regiment, which is a county regiment in England, and we became the Mercian Regiment, which is I've got a cat badge actually. This is the Mercians. I've got one right here.
It's show and tell with Kirk. I love it.
Yeah. Where are we? They're all normally. Okay, here we go. So that's the old Cheshires. So that's the cat badge we used to have.
Oh,
that goes back to the Second World War. The old one was just the oak leaf in the middle.
yeah.
Okay, and then the new regiment is that one. It's quite warry actually. It's got the Saxon crown on it. So we'll never be royal. We'll never be royal because we've got the old Saxon crown, which predates the current royal family. Okay, so that's there. So, but the regiment had one of the toughest tours in Afghanistan. The regiment lost 12 guys in a very short space of time, in space of 3 months, and I lost seven very good friends in the space of 3 months. And these guys I'd known for about 12, 13 years, and for me that was it was the first time I'd ever oh gosh, what is it? Not grief. Yeah, grief. Real grief. I'd never experienced grief, but what had happened? An armoured car. We had these new armoured cars, and one had basically slipped off the road. It had been hit by an Afghan police vehicle, and it rolled into a canal. And 4 of the guys had drowned. And I got told about them. And one of them was one of my recruits, and one of them was one of my good friends. And just the tragedy of it sent me into this wailing grief. And I'd never experienced it before. It just took over my body, and I had to have an evening to myself to sort of get my head together. And by then I was getting out of the army. I decided I'd had enough. 18 years in, time to leave now. And I ended up being a part of the burial for 5 or 6 of those guys, and it was the end of my military career. 18 years served, putting my friends in the ground in my own county where I'm from, and that was the closure of my military career. It was the end of my military career, and I left at a very difficult time. I left to go and pursue something bigger, I guess. So I went and did a load of training. I'd already done some bodyguard work whilst I was serving, and I became a close protection officer. So I did a load of training, and it's high risk stuff. So going back out to war zones, using a lot of my previous experience, and I found myself back in Iraq, looking after the Foreign Office and State Department staff. So that's the high-ranking colonels and generals. And by now, Iraq was the troops were due to leave. Barack Obama had said by 2012 he wanted the troops out. So I was back out there, and we were doing some really cool stuff. Facilitating meetings up in Baghdad. Trying to go down and sort out meetings at the oil fields, aid agencies. It was really, really cool stuff. Out to the oil rigs on Black Hawk helicopters. It was all quite funky, cool stuff. And I thought, right, it's only going to get better here. It's going to get safer. And in a year's time, I'll have body armor and helmet off, and I'll be going on leave a lot more, and I'll just have a pistol, and it'll be almost like Dubai. They'll have skyscrapers and loads of money. But unfortunately, that's not the case, because there's so much corruption and so many proxy elements pulling. You've got the Iranians pulling one way, you've got the Saudis pulling the other. Nobody neighbouring Iraq wants it to succeed, because it's just crossroads, and everybody has an ownership of the place. And again, when you go to these countries, you don't realise the patchwork quilt of tribes that you're going into, that you're unraveling. And that's some things that that I think the head shed didn't realise they were getting involved in, was when they went into these conflicts. And they've done it throughout quite a lot of these regime changes, straight with North Africa. They've been doing the same with North Africa as well. So yeah, I was out there, and I've been out there sort of 3 years, and I found myself working near the Iranian border. And that's when the American troops had withdrawn, and they withdrew by Christmas 2012. So we ended up with 10,000 Thanksgiving dinners and 10,000 Christmas dinners for about 3,000 people. So we ended up spending about 6 months eating turkey dinner. So everyone got really fat. It was ridiculous. Turkey dinners for 6 months. Yeah.
Cheers, my friend.
Yeah, cheers.
So I think you're heading into the chapter. I can sense we're heading towards perhaps the part of the story where you tell us how you came up with your name, the Singlehanded Survivor.
Yes. So my local. So when we went to Iraq the first time, there's no mobile phone signal. They didn't have mobile phones. And this company put all the mobile phone network up, and within the space of about 6 months, everybody had 4G. My local nationals had these mobile phones. They'd all got these they'd all added me on Facebook and this, that, and the other. And I remember my LNs, my local national Iraqi guys, the interpreters and drivers, they come into the option and go, Mr. Kirk, I see this video online, and I go, what is it? And it was ISIS with the beheadings, who were beheading people. They come in from Syria. So Syria was going through, and the Free Syrian Army had gone in, and they were fighting Bashar al-Assad, and that was a melting pot over there. And basically this extremist Islamic State had moved in, and they basically were in Western Iraq. And my LNs were seeing all of this, they called them Daesh. First time I'd ever heard of Daesh. And in the mornings, I'll put the briefing up on and say, guys, we're going to go on patrol here. We're going to go up to Baghdad, and we're going to pick clients up from here. Their faces would go white. They go white as a sheet. Go, Mr. Kirk, no mushkila, we cannot go. And I go, why? He said, Daesh. And I go, we've got to go, guys. It's our job. You get sacked otherwise, And I was due on leave about 3 days later, and I thought, well, we'll see how things go. I'll go on leave and weigh up my odds, and see how things go from there. And we were evacuating clients to the airport to Baghdad, about 4 hours drive away, all the way up through checkpoints, and then we were on the way back. It'd been a long day, been on the road for about 5 hours. And on the way back, we're about 2 hours from the base, and there's checkpoints, and these checkpoints hadn't been manned for weeks. The police and army had disappeared; they'd run away, and we later found out because of this propaganda they'd been seeing on the social media. They just got so scared they all ran off. And as we're approaching the checkpoint, I'm leading a 4-vehicle convoy of armoured cars, and I can see there's pickup trucks ahead of me, and they've got guns, and there's definitely people there, and are they police or are they army? And they certainly weren't either. And I just said to my driver, Edan, go, put your foot down. And we were committed. So Edan's vehicle went through. I looked through the rear view mirror, the second vehicle, third vehicle, fourth vehicle through. Where the hell were they? And then suddenly, bang, my vehicle takes off up in the air. It's about 15 foot off the floor, and it's going sideways on. And the next thing, I'm looking over to the driver's side, Edan, and I can see the road coming towards us. And my instant reaction is to hold onto the seat and put my hand in the air. And that's when the vehicle rolled. And the windscreen, the armoured glass came into the windscreen, and that's what pulled at my arm. I don't know why I decided to put my arm up to the roof, but it was just a reaction. And my arm's being pulled out, and because I've got my seatbelt on and my body armour, I'm being held in, luckily enough. And my 2IC Gary, he said, the vehicle rolled about 5 or 6 times, and the vehicle's doors ripped off, the roof ripped off. And I remember coming to in the vehicle, having been hit over the head a half dozen times, and I could see sky above me, and it was sort of like this purpley haze because my eyes had filled with blood. Everything was pink, and then I went to reach the door, and there's no door there. So I went to dive out of the vehicle, and as I went to step out of the vehicle, my leg went one way, and my foot went the other because my tib and fib had both been shattered by the blast, and the shock, the pain going through my body basically forced me to the ground. I ended up face down on the ground in the desert, and I'm telling my body to move. I'm screaming at it, move. And I was a fit guy, and I was able-bodied, and I could run quite far and fast, and it was like an error. It was like an error had gone on in the brain. I had this chip that wasn't connecting, and the next thing I just felt an arm on the back of my head, and my teammates grabbed me and chucked me into the next truck, and they bombed off across the desert, put a bearing on, and shot off across the desert. And we knew there was a clinic about 2 hours away, and it's funny because there was 2 clinics. One of them couldn't save my life, and the other one could. And I'm in the back of the truck, and I'm in out of consciousness, and I'm feeling my fingers when I'm conscious, and I know I've lost my arm here. My fingers feel like crispy, they're like crisps, crispy and dry. It's 50-degree heat when we got hit. And then when I fell unconscious each time, I'm going blind, I'm going deaf, I'm falling unconscious, and I'm saying goodbye. This is it. It's time to go. It's time to say goodbye. I'm not coming to. Then all of a sudden the pain would go through me, and I'd be wretched. And then the medic's over the seat giving me sips of water. Come on, Kirk, stay with me. And then at one time during the journey, I'm full unconscious, and I've got this out of body experience. I'm flying above these 3 vehicles, and it's almost like I'm in perfect 4K. I'm flying above the vehicles, and there's a T-junction, and left is the wrong clinic and right is the right clinic, and they're going to go left, and I'm going, guys, and I'm rapping on the window to my 2IC Gary, no, we're going right, don't go left. And I'm actually in the back of the truck in the fetal position in that consciousness, and later on I find out that they did go to the wrong clinic initially, and they were immediately turned around, but I added half an hour to the journey, and it was only later on that Gary told me that, and I'm like, well, I knew this. I knew that had happened. I was flying above the truck. What? You were flying above the truck? Yeah. I did not see me rapping on the window, but I'm full of drugs. When he spoke to me, I'm back in the UK, and I'm full of morphine. So they get me to the little clinic in Elcourt, and there's a couple of guys, porters there with orange jumpsuits on. They put me on the trolley and dragged me in for surgery.
Now,
I'm lay on the slab.
were you aware that you had lost your arm during this whole time? Or were you thinking it's damaged? What was your...
Yeah. When I'm in the back of the truck, I was feeling my fingers when I was conscious, and they felt dry. And I've got combat medical experience, and I knew that that was it. The circulation had gone. And if it's over an hour, bear in mind the guys put a tourniquet on. If it's over an hour, you're going to lose the limb. It's actually 15 minutes. If you've got a tourniquet on for more than 15 minutes, you're losing that limb. Because what's happening is it starts to die, toxins start to form, and if you release the tourniquet, you end up with blood poisoning. You'll end up with sepsis and die. But I come to terms with it because the way I compartmentalise it was, I'm in the back of the truck. I'm not lay face down in the desert. So being in the back of the truck's a better place than being in the desert. Yeah. And then being on the slab in the clinic is better than being in the truck. And then when the surgeon took the saw and chopped my arm off, that was better because I knew that arm needed to come off, because if it stayed on, it would kill me. So, and the only reason I could make that logical progressive step is because of my previous knowledge of combat medicine. You know, seeing other guys get hurt, and it was like, well, it's my turn now. You know, it's my turn. You know, I'm going through this flow. And the way I talk about it when I talk about survival is, you know, when someone does get hurt in the middle of blooming nowhere, thinking about being back home with your family it might as well be Mars. You know, it's that far away. Yeah. So just think about what's right in front of you. You know, think about what's just ahead of you. So the surgeon chopped my arm off. And the next morning, the guys guarded me overnight. The militia were on the prowl, and the guys guarded me overnight. And the early hours the next morning, before the sun rose, they chucked me in the back of a small ambulance and whizzed me up to Baghdad, where there's a private jet waiting for me. And then they flew me back to Cambridge, hospital in Cambridge, Addenbrooke's, and I had gold standard treatment. They were absolutely amazing. And, you know, I went for an operation. My leg it's still now full of metal work. Which is great, but I beep when I go through the scanner at the airport.
You're okay.
So I'm recovering, and I remember laying in the hospital bed the next morning, smell the lovely clean hospital air, but at least it's cleaner than a mucky desert. And then look out the window, this lovely blue sky and the tops of green trees and birds singing. It's a lovely, you know, sort of summer's day in England, and cool air is flowing through the window, and you know, it's just you know, I'm here, and I'm thinking back to when guys in my team were evacuated when I was on tour, and you know, the guy get injured and you chuck him on the MER, or you took him on the helicopter, and then that would be a void. The whole team would be like in shock because this person's gone. And they're in a very bad way, and you think they could be dead. And these guys, and I knew back in Iraq, the guys were thinking exactly that. This is 2 days later. The guys back in Iraq have got to wonder what the hell's going on with me. So I said, right, I'm going to get in touch with them. So I get the internet. I've got we've got these little, in the hospitals in England, we've got these screens that are on like an arm. You put it to your bedside and you pay for the internet, and you can, you know, go on Facebook or ring people or whatever. And I'm on the Facebook to Iraq, and all the local nationals are popping up on the messenger, you know, in Arabic, and I'm trying to translate. And then finally, Gary, my 2IC, comes up and he says, "Oh, Kirk," he says, "you know, you're alive." And I said, "Gary, you know, the team did so well. You know, they put a neck brace on me. I had a broken neck. You know, they did everything." Everything was spot on. You know, what they did was amazing. He said, "Oh, you know, I'm just so glad you're alive." You know, I said, "Well, I'm drinking, you know, juice for a straw, but you know, I'm all right. I'll be okay." He said, "All right." He said, "What do you want me to do with your arm?" I said, "What?" He said, What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you want me to do with your arm?" He said, "Yeah, I've got your arm here. It's in a bucket. I found it in the truck." And I'm like, "What do you mean you've got my arm?" He said, "Well, the surgeon couldn't bury it." He said, "Because you're, you know, not Muslim. You know, they thought I was Christian." He said that he couldn't go in the grave at the back of the clinic. They gave it back in a sharps bucket, the yellow tub, and it was under the seat of the truck for 2 days. And when the guys came to clean it out, "Hey, Mr. Gary, I find this," and he opens it up, and my blooming arm's in there. So,
Cliff, my God, you know what? I'm sure you told me this story. I know us actors were at, what was that pub that we all went
the one across the road. Yeah, we ended up dancing there. I remember we danced in there.
Yeah.
I don't even know 5 minutes, and we're already dancing together, aren't we?
I'm pretty sure that you told me that story. I remember parts of that. It didn't, but I'm glad you're telling me now, and I will remember it. But that's crazy. Oh my God, I can't believe what you've been through, and
Yeah.
like you just, it's just incredible, and you are. I don't know, your energy is so beautiful, Kirk, and I just have to say this to you, and so I just think hearing everything you've been through for that, that requires an incredible spirit.
Yeah. It was a long journey there. I'm not well. It took me a long time to become me. Obviously after that, then you get there is the post trauma period, and I'll talk about that in the survival journey. So I bounced back. I learned how to walk again. I got out of the clinic. I got in a job. I was working in London for an insurance company recovering people from around the world. You know, really high. It was Ebola crisis to a UN this and really high profile stuff. And then all of a sudden, I stood on the train platform one morning and said, "I don't want to work anymore. I don't want to do this." And I went home to my wife at the time and said, "I've quit my job." And she said, "What do you mean you've quit your job?" I said, "I've quit my job. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do other stuff." I nearly died, and each day that I do something I don't want to do, I'll walk away and not want to do it anymore. And she really didn't like the new person. She really didn't like the new me, because what had happened is I'd been through that physical trauma. I'd been in a blast where my brain had been shook up. And what had happened in that, my brain had rewired. And so a new character came out. There was a new person. And my value structures had changed. You know, I used to be a very focused, disciplined, single-minded guy, and I'd be very critical of people. I would always be, "Oh, look at that fat guy over there," or "Look at that person, look at that waster over there." I'd always be this guy that was like that, and I do see it within the military. There are people that are like that, and it's a defense mechanism. It's I'm going to be this guy, and and everybody else is a loser, and it's like, and I hold my hands up to say that I was probably pig-headed guy like that, and because I'd been through this near-death thing where people had saved me and bent over backwards for me, and then I'd had my brain shook to pieces, my value structure had changed, and my new character came out. I'll be glad in saying that I'm a nicer person for it. I think I'm a nicer person. I look back at old photos of me, and I look at the old me, and there was naivety, there was pig-headedness, there was that bravado thing. So I'm a better person for it. What it did do is it did end a relationship. My marriage came to an end because the two of us just didn't get on anymore. We were different people with different values. I went on a game show.
Can I pause?
I went on a game. Go on.
I'd like to pause you for a second, because I'm a woman of a certain age and I'm drinking Guinness. I need to take a 1 second bio break. I'm really fast. Ask my friends, those that are here. But before I go quickly, I'm going to have you hold the room, and you can just talk to the people that are here, because I can't make it past 30 minutes anymore. But I just want to say, Kirk, I don't know the person before that you're referring to. All I know is the person that I met in 2019, and that's an incredible. I think we all grow and change, but you obviously went through a very transitional period there, and we're going to talk about that in 2 seconds. So drink your Prosecco. I'm really quick. I'm not even going to wash my hands. I'll be right back.
Do I just entertain everybody else while she's gone? Do I? So I'll tell a little joke whilst Janaya's gone. Right, so I was out in the park this morning, and there's a guy walking his dog, and he turned round to me and he told me he sent it to retrieve a stick from 100 miles away. I said, "That's a bit far-fetched." So yeah, I'm seeing that a few people are asking the question. So while Janaya's gone, I've been asked there, is your book an autobiography? How did you decide to write the book? So I do have my autobiography. It's called Misadventure. I think Janaya's going to probably ask me for it. Hey, she's back again. There we go. One of your friends was asking about whether I'd written the autobiography.
Yes.
The Mustang palette. Yeah, the pin post. Yeah, there we are.
I'm going to tell you about Sue Ann. So she's the one that served as well. She's also,
yes, hi.
she's also a beautiful poet, and she also did the artwork in my book. She's a beautiful artist. So she's really, she's cool beans.
Cool beans, love it. Brilliant.
So, okay, so I'm so
Go on.
guys, I'm so sorry. I'm speechless because I'm just so excited to see my friend here. All right, so do you want to start talking about how you got into the acting now then? Is that where we're at?
Okay. Right, so the acting. Right, so as a veteran, now living in Civvy Street with an arm missing, for quite a lonely, isolated place to be. So I ended up joining a charity called Blesma, which is the British Limbless Ex-Servicemen's Association. They go right back to the First World War. All these guys and girls came back to the First World War. Great charity, really good charity. So I signed up this charity, became a member, and then within about 3 months of being a member of the charity, I ended up on a skiing trip to Colorado. So we went out to Colorado with about 12 of the guys and girls, and I'm sat at the end of this skiing trip, sitting in the lodge and asking people, what are you guys doing with your lives now? What do you do? And two of the guys on the trip, Jez Scarrett was one of the guys with a leg missing, ex-Royal Marine. He said, we've just been in a war film. Two of the guys said, which film? Oh, Fury with Brad Pitt, about the tank. I said, what did you do? So we were stuntmen and we were injured. I got blown up and my leg got blown off. And I said, blooming heck, I'll have a bit of that. So I signed up for a couple of casting agencies, and I met Jez again on Wonder Woman. So we ended up on Wonder Woman down at Tilbury Docks, coming back for the Western Front, and it's always World War One, with the costumes on and that sort of stuff. And it was just really nice being on set and being in the film environment. It's very much like being back in the military. You're working with 80, 90, 100 people that have all got a focus to do, and they want to get the job done and get the shots in and get the time. And I really liked it. So I spent quite a lot of time on various films. I did Goodbye Christopher Robin about A.A. Milne, then rolled on to The Crown, the first season of The Crown, which was great fun. We did a few bits of that. Where else did I go? Kingsman. Well, we worked on Kingsman. So there's a lot of... Basically, anyone who's a soldier, we're very good at it. Pick up a gun and, right, guys, want you to run into this place and, go and shoot them. Okay, I can do that. Quite good at that. And the most surreal day that I had on set, we're over in the Norfolk coast, and it was a film called Annihilation. And it was the final scene of Annihilation. But have you seen it, the film? It's about... You have. It was on Netflix a few years. Basically, it's an alien invasion. This alien comes down and takes over a lighthouse. And this lighthouse is actually over the Norfolk coast here in England, but it looks a little bit like, it could be like New England or somewhere like that. It's like flat coastal area, Atlantic coast. And this alien takes over your DNA and all that sort of stuff. And we're there in these like special forces kit with all our machine guns. And there's alien skeletons all over the beach. And we're guarding these alien skeletons. And I'm like, well, this is the weirdest day in the office I've ever had. And I'm stood there on this sand dune watching people walking their dogs up and down, right? And they've got these prop alien skeletons like sticking out the sand, and a dog runs over because the ball comes over, and he grabs a bone out of the this is on the set, and runs back to his owner, and this is an alien bone, and it's like you can see this dog owner on the beach going, looking at this alien bone, going, what the hell's that?
I love how you're like, well, this is the strangest day at the office I've ever had.
Brilliant. Guarding an alien invasion scene. It's great. Love it. But that's what I love about the film industry. You end up doing the weirdest, wackiest things, Yeah. So I was doing that for a while. There's a couple of stunts, a lot of military sort of advisee, role play stuff. And then I went and studied creative media at Forces Media in London. So I'd already studied it by the time I got with you guys, because from that I did a media foundation degree. Absolutely brilliant. Learn about the camera work, learn about the lighting, where the industries are going, whether they want to go into, documentary making or journalism, and I was movies. Movies was my thing, storytelling and movies. And I found myself I was working in location management, a real sort of natural step for me. Finding I'm quite geographically aware. I know about North Africa and Morocco, and I know where cold Arctic places are, and lovely places like Ireland where you can go and film Game of Thrones. You want some Rocky Mountains, I'll go and find you there. And then I ended up, not necessarily in my genre, but I ended up with the old stately homes. I ended up looking after all the big places like Hatfield House, and so all these lovely big stately homes we've got over here. Great for period dramas, and that's how I ended up on Bridgerton. So I ended up, working in the location management of that, and it was brilliant. On set, I'd be managing the casting crew of a couple hundred people.
I got to interrupt you for a minute because we're talking about Bridgerton, and as much as I'm a friend, and this is all very interesting, but that series, like.
It was just basically a big shag fest, wasn't it? So I'm on set, right? I'm on set, and one of my jobs is to keep so when you see the bodies, when you see their bodies and they're doing the shaggy body, it's not the actors, it's their body doubles, right? So you've got Reggie Dean and they've got their body doubles, right? And I've got to keep them warm, and it's like a March day, it's freezing cold. We're doing this night scene, and I've got this tent up, and I've got a gas heater in the corner, and they've got blankets around them, and they're going, "Go on, you two, get in there, keep warm, because you'll be back on set in a minute. You don't have goosebumps." And I'm trying to keep them warm and happy. This is another weirdest day at the office. I've got two naked people, There's loads of that. It's like, right, who's checking in with this one?
Too funny.
But isn't that what Netflix became?
Because it's a closed set. Sorry.
Go on.
It's closed set. So so you're one of the people that is sort of involved in that, because whenever there's nudity on set or anything like that, it's always a closed set, right? Yeah, so it's
really funny because there's a job, and they are what they call they're an intimacy coordinator, right? And they are the person that decides who kisses who, how long the kiss lasts for, what point can you touch? Can you touch their waist to here? Can you touch the bum cheek? When they kiss, are you allowed to use tongs or not? So they have to have this like a deal. And so I got this. I got a chance to read it.
Right. So just let me check, because this is a very fun story. We call that a rider here, and I've had to sign one once. You have to agree to it beforehand, so you're not pressured on set, so that you know what you've agreed to beforehand. Yeah.
I had one, and it was The Crown, season 2 of The Crown, and I had to smack a girl on the bum, right? So we're in the 1950s, and we're in the 1 o'clock club in London. So it's the Temple. It's being filmed in the Temple in London. Really chauvinistic, we're like 1950s. Everyone's smoking, and it was basically showing how badly women were treated. And basically, the director turned around and said, "Kirk, as you walk past here, when you walk past the waitress, give her a smack on the backside." And I'm like, "Oh, right, okay. So does she know I'm going to do this?" She said, "Yeah, she's getting paid 500 quid for it." I'm like, "Oh, right, okay." So I did it the first time, and I did it too soft. I only give her a tap. So I had to give her a proper wallop afterwards, and I felt really bad about it. I was like, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that hard, but we got the take, and it made the cut. I was like, that's not going to make the cut, surely. And he said, if you watch season 2 of The Crown, it's got me in the 1 o'clock club who walk past, and I go, I'm like,
anyone that catches this replay that has not seen that episode, or even that has, is probably going to go back looking for that smack.
I know. We were terrible, weren't they, men, in the day, weren't they?
Oh.
To keep that stuff in the bedroom, don't you?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness, it's so exciting. The thing about Instagram, everybody. If Kirk and I were in the pub right now, we'd be like, da, da, da. We've got to stop. So I'm sorry if I cut you off on anything funny that you were saying. Instagram only lets one of us talk at a time. You have lived such and incredibly, now I'm going to say, you know, there's exciting is a word I could use for the tail end of it, but there's also been a lot of trauma. There's been a lot of adventure. There's been a lot of fear, I'm sure. There's, you know, there's been just so much. Like, you really have been, anybody else that I know in my life, I will say this, you have really been through the gamut. And it's just such an incredible story, Kirk. And I just want to pause here at this moment in time to say what an honor it was to work with you, and to be able to call you a friend and to share this space with you right now. Sorry, I'm getting a little mushy, but I just want to interject with that right now, because your story is just seriously so incredible. And so you have put some of this to the page. Yes?
Yeah. So I got right. Do you know, I didn't procrastinate during lockdown, and I should have written then, but I finally got round to doing it because my work became steady away, and I just, there'd been so much in my head that I needed somewhere to put it. You know, it's all sitting there building up, and I wanted to move forward, especially with the thoughts of the past. And you know, we talk about self-authoring and you know, getting it down so you can then move forward. And I'm sitting there at 44 thinking, right, if I get it down now, get the first sort of third or nearly half down, then I can get on with the next chapter. So I did. So I'll show you that. So I got that one. That's my autobiography up to now. I'm wearing the same. I've got a different shirt on now, by the way. So I wore that. So we in England, we've got in the UK with the Legion, we do a thing called the Festival of Remembrance at Royal Albert Hall, and I got a chance to perform there and to do a veterans sort of piece for the Legion, and that was really good because it was in front of the royal family, and it was on the whole of the BBC. So to learn this guy's script, yeah, and it was really moving. So I've written about me, and I've written about sort of the journey and the chapters of it, and then I've left it open there because I probably reckon I could probably do another one of those in a couple of years' time. So that's nice. That's that bit put to bed, and that was a great cathartic exercise for me. Have you written about yourself, Janaya?
We'll talk about me in a bit. I want you to hold that book up.
Let me show you.
And hold it. Okay, yeah, perfect, guys. So on the replay, that will screen without comments. That's incredible. I love that photo of you, and I love how you put all of that in there. And yes, I think you've got much more ahead of you. So there's probably definitely going to be a part 2.
Yeah, yes, definitely. There'll be. Yeah, that's. I've left it open. But there's it's nice. Do you know, when I nearly died and I was laying in the hospital bed, and I was doing some research, doing some family research, and there wasn't much about me. And I remember when my dad died, I was trying to find out about him, and there was nothing. There was just literally a paragraph in the cemetery, and I was like, well, if I'd have gone, my kids would have known nothing. So everything that I'm doing now is a legacy for them. You know, it's something they can see. You know, that's something that their grandkids can see. Because you know, there's nothing, there's nothing. We're just a blot, aren't we? You know, we're just a blot, and if you just go along doing nothing, you're just going to go back to nothing, aren't you? Yeah. And we're bigger than that. We all are. You know, for our families, you know, in our own family groups. So that's I've definitely made a point of doing stuff and pushing myself outside of my comfort zone as a result.
It's interesting that you say that, Kirk, because my book. A Little Red Book of Poetry.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
My intro is a piece I wrote called Legacy. And, you know, I thought of my children when I curated what I was going to put in that. Yeah. And it is like a little piece of yourself, you know, and it's so true. Like, you know, my mother's getting up there right now, and I bought her one of those journals, like that prompts people to tell their story, because you know, I can't count on my memory or whether I've asked her the right questions, and I don't know if she's filling it out, but there's histories there, you know, and I love that you've done that.
Life passes by so quickly, and you know, well, I always loved older people's stories, and I think what we've got a problem now in society is younger generations are looking at older people as if they've got nothing to offer. You know, there's whole generations of people out there because life and technology have moved on so fast that the younger generations, the older generations, got nothing they can tell you. So it's all there. The tech will tell me what I need to know. But now, I mean, for me, it was the old men in the pub, and these were all World War II veteran guys who were telling us about what happened, and within there's a lesson to be learned, and I make a point of saying, you know, your story, whatever journey you're on, there's a message in there. You know, I remember doing these veteran. We take our stories to the local community. We go to colleges and schools with our stories. And I remember this old veteran called Angus, and he came in and said, you know, my story's nothing. I didn't get injured in combat. And we said, no, you've lost your leg. You know, tell us that. This lovely gentleman, really, very posh. He said, oh, no, mine was just an accident. He said, no, tell us about your accident. I said, what happened? He said, oh, well, it was a Sunday. We'd been out to a mess function, and my friend and I were in his new smart car. This back in the 1980s, and they wrapped it round a tree, over the limit, drink driving in the 80s. And I said, "Oh, is that how you lost your leg?" He said, "No, we got out of that." And my friend was really annoyed about his car, and he said the next thing on the Wednesday they were flying in the new helicopter, this Lynx helicopter, to land it on the aircraft carrier. And it overshot the aircraft carrier and splashed into the water, and the rotors flew off. And the next thing, they're swimming out of it. And we're sat gobsmacked. This guy come into the room and said, you know, his story meant nothing. It's like, wait a second, you've just been nearly killed in a car crash on the Sunday. You've now crashed your helicopter. It's like, is that how you lost your leg? He said, no. He said, we got out of that, honestly, at Janaya. And he said, and I got to Friday, I just wanted to go home and see my family. And he came out the gates of camp on his motorbike. And as he came out the gates of camp, a lorry hit him, you know, and took his leg off. And it was like, and all he was thinking was, you know, it was the motorbike crash. And it wasn't. It was the blooming car crash the week before that then rolled into the helicopter crash that then rolled into his motorbike crash. And you're on this. I talk about it in survival. I talk about you basically end up in a situation where you're not in control of your journey. You're not in control of your destiny. You're out of control. You know, you're on a roller coaster to catastrophe. So this can happen with anybody. This could be somebody in their normal day-to-day life where they're late for a meeting, they're late for a job, they've not put the seatbelt on the car, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're rushing at the traffic lights. Bang! That's when it goes wrong. You know, the amount of survival stories I look back at, and it's a number of things that went wrong that created the perfect storm for the catastrophe to happen. And I see that in my story, and I see that in quite a lot of my veteran colleagues' stories. And it's like, here we go. There's the perfect storm. That's the number of things that have come together to make, you know, catastrophe happen. So
this next book.
Yeah. Should I talk about this one?
Yes, please.
Okay, right. So this one, right. So I'd been doing the job for about a year and a half. And I got recruited. So I got recruited as a survival instructor. And I thought, crikey, I'll go to the job interview. I'll just talk about me and my background and what I've been through. Because I am a survivor, I've got the extensive military background. But because I've survived a near-death incident, I've got a little bit of it was almost like the icing on the cake. So when it came to things like the psychology of survival, the bushcraft stuff's the bushcraft stuff, but the psychology of it's the real gem. I ended up writing. So I started writing. I thought, okay, 3 months, go to the coffee shop every other day, write. And then I then went to edit it up to get published, and it went from 300 pages to 500 pages. And I'm like, who's going to buy that?
How did you do that?
So there's 500 pages of that, right? So that is, I mean, most survival books are lots of diagrams, lots of pictures, lots of very, very easy, light-hearted stuff. This is proper, like, psychology of it, like, why is survival? There is bushcraft in there, but it's you know, if you're going to study it, as a subject, it's like, That's
It's the
it.
new textbook. It's the new textbook.
It is, yeah. So basically, hopefully, my aim is hopefully I'll get quoted. If somebody decides to study some of it, I might get quoted, and so that's my aim. But it was great. The journey of it was awesome, and so my next one will be a more lighter version of that. It won't be 300 pages long. It'll be, But I enjoyed the process. So that's me on top of the mountain there with the thing, and then the script on the back. There's bits of my. So when I teach survival,
Can you read the back cover for us, please?
okay, the back of this one is former soldier, bodyguard, combat veteran, hunted fugitive, Channel 4, and military survival instructor Kirk Bowett is himself a survivor. Being in the unique role of delivering survival training to the UK military and having access to over 3,000 fellow severely wounded and limbless veterans, Kirk has taken his own experiences and that of his friends to piece together the art of survival, what makes a survival, and what is needed in order to get through the survival journey. Okay, there we go.
And I love that's an actual photo of you. I was going to say it's a great cover. That's an actual photo.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah. So that is it. The rescue get me recovered, and it's really funny because there's a physical element to it, i.e., I am stuck in a place on the planet and I need to get to my family and get rescued. But there's also a psychological part to it. There's the bit of we could be in a psychologically we could be in the abyss, we could be in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So the two parts of the journey is the physical getting rescued and there's the psychological getting rescued. Both sit hand in hand. That thousands of miles away in the desert, could be the moon. But you could be thousands of miles away in the desert, surrounded by people.
Yeah.
You could be. I'm watching a lot of stuff on YouTube, and what's really coming to light now is although we're surrounded by all this tech and we're never more connected, how there's so many people that are lonely and isolated out there. They're out there. They're out there on a limb, and just these simple things like something that we know. It's quite funny because my survival team are full of roughy, toughy veterans that are scarred to death, and we're like the guys, but we're the most cuddliest, friendliest guys. We're the ones that don't hide behind rank. We're the ones that just rank means nothing to us. We're about the team and making sure everybody's looked after. Because that's the most important thing. When you're in the barracks, playing sergeant major, that's all well and good. But when you're actually out in the combat environment, it's about looking after your people. That's leadership. That's real leadership. Being brave enough to look after your weakest people and also show weakness, show your own vulnerabilities. And we're going back to that acting. We're going back to that. The whole. If I can show a vulnerability, then I'm being more human to my people, and then they'll reciprocate that. So that's a big part of it.
I absolutely love that, Kirk. And I'll be honest with you, working because there was a few other veterans on that show. Tip.
Colin, yeah, what a man. Hopefully he'll get to watch this. Hi Tip, if you're there. We'll probably watch this tomorrow.
Yeah, all of you guys, and honestly, there's such heart, and I felt that, and that we bonded. There was such a connection, all of us, and it felt like we were a team, we were a family, like instantly. It was just a beautiful, beautiful experience, and I'll just never forget it. So I definitely. I vote yes. You are accurate. You have a very big heart. Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's absolutely incredible. Cheers. Let's have a toast here.
Yeah. Cheers, my dears.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's so good to see you again.
It is so good to see you. Now, guys, So this is Kirk. He's fantastic. And for those of you that can't be here right now, you can be watching the replay. I just want to let you know, thank you for watching the replay. And I know that you know what I speak of after meeting Kirk, if you don't already know him. So you are a veteran, an actor, a survival instructor, and an author, and you sent me a piece that you had wrote, and I would like to read it.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I talk about being I talk about being kind, and there was a period in my life where I wasn't kind. I wasn't a kind person, and it was a defense mechanism. I was quite a cruel person at one point in my life, and then I became cruel again when I was suffering from trauma, PTSD, and I was on my narrowboat. I remember being on my narrowboat, and we'd had a hot summer, and my boat it ran aground, and I couldn't get it off I physically get it off, and I was getting really frustrated about it. And then the rains came, and when the rains came, it was like, oh, I'm free. And then I thought, then people, I think about kindness and how it can be a fluid thing, and the more of it is better than the being less of it. So yeah, it's there. There's the poem. It's there.
So, and it's funny because I said, send me something from your survival book. Like, we'll read each other, know, in the spirit of my pens thing. We'll do a reading. So guys, anybody in here, I've given Kirk my Gen X piece. He's gonna read, but so I was thinking Kirk was gonna send me something from one of his books, and lo and behold, he sends me this beautiful poem. So he's also a poet, everybody. Okay? He doesn't just write about survival and autobiographies. He's a beautiful writer. So, this floored me. So I'm going to read it, if you don't mind, my friend. All right. So this is The River of Kindness. How do you say your last name?
You were right. You're right. But Bowett, yeah.
Bowett. Perfect.
You got it right.
Okay. Just want to double check. My name's Janaya, by the way.
Janaya.
Not Janaya. But I think I let that slide during the play.
I always call you Janaya, don't I?
But a lot of people do, and I didn't correct you. I didn't correct anybody during the play because I was like, I'm just happy you're calling my name. I really don't. So
Janaya.
Just for the record here on the video, but you call me the way you do. It's fine.
I'm English. I'm allowed to.
That's right. All right, so here we go, guys. This is Kirk Bowett, and this is a poem he wrote called The River of Kindness. Kindness is the rain that makes the rivers flow, so vessels that transport our hearts can travel to and fro. One day I sailed to an island and met a lonely sinner. Our encounter was not a happy one, and the experience made me bitter. I dwelled upon the encounter as I sailed back home to lie, and woke the next morning with my mouth so parched and dry. A drought soon came, and the rains did stop, and the river began to thirst. I blamed it on my encounter with that man. He left me with a cure. For without a river to navigate, I was stranded on my island, lonely, miserable, frustrated, abandoned, and in jerkwater. Then one day, a message came of love and hope on wing. It filled my heart with hope and joy of a future with more fruitful things. I responded quickly to the message with humble kindness and a plea for the rains to come, so my boat could float and cruise to find them free. The next morning, I woke to the pattering of rain. My river began to fill again, and now I began to feel sane. I was soon able to sail my boat and escape the wretched island, to find the writer of the note, the one filled with love and kindness. Soon I was on my way, heading fast down Torrent Stream, and noticed a new structure, one I had not before seen. It was near the place where the island was, where I met that wretched man. He had only gone and barricaded by trying to build a dam. I had the note that saved me and got me. I hope I hope it has the same effect it has had on me that day, because kindness is the rain that makes the rivers flow, so we can navigate the water and lift each other
Well done.
through the
You
day.
read it better than me. You made me cry with that.
It's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
It takes me back.
Oh, so beautiful. Because kindness is the rain that makes the rivers flow, so we can navigate the water and lift each other through the day.
Yeah.
Beautiful, right?
I
So beautiful.
think I was struggling with a lock gate on the river as well that day. Up to my knees in mud, but it definitely is. So for me, kindness it's contagious, isn't it? It's like you got to. Do you know? It takes a big effort. It's the easy thing to do is to be nasty and cruel. You know, the easy thing to do is to say the bad thing to somebody. And what we generally don't understand is where somebody is in their life. You know, when they beat the car horn or they slam the door or cut you up. You know, people are being jerks, but if I find that I can neutralize it. I can neutralize any hostility with kindness, because we're all human. You know, we're all us. And the person who's being nasty probably is because they don't have enough kindness in their life. You know, and it's the harder thing to do.
Absolutely. That is so beautifully
I am
put.
Gen
Are you going to
X.
read my piece
Is
now?
that what we are? Are we Gen X's? Are we Gen X?
I just want to give a
I'm 78. I'm 78.
I'm 74.
Yeah, so we are Gen X, aren't we? And there's a big thing about our generation, because we are. It was a bit of a nutty upbringing, wasn't it? It was like you came in when the sun went down. There was definitely no boundaries. I remember in my, I'd go off on adventures like during the summer holidays and disappear till all hours, and there was nobody calling me on a phone to get me home. You know, it was rough and ready. Yeah, it really was. Yeah, and look at us now. We're still alive.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Gen X. We were the songs that you heard on the radio, all revved up, ready for a fight, dancing in the fields and the headlights, running free and swinging from trees. We were tall when we were small. We had to memorize our numbers if we wanted to make a call. There were no helicopter moms, no boundaries set for us at the edge of our lawns. I had 3 channels to choose from. Country girl living. I could still hear the antenna rotating. My girlfriends from town had cable. MTV was amazing. We would record our favourite bands on VHS if we were able. You couldn't rewind live TV. Let's talk about the mixtapes. I think we've all made one. Speedwagon and Chicago. Love Hurts was our motto. We've got special talent. We lived in different times. We were exposed to life of offline, but young enough to embrace it. When it came crashing through our doors, we were amazed at the Commodore 64s. We ran wild and free. If we fell, no one was watching. No Band-Aid standing by, providing by a watchful eye. We had to pick ourselves back up and make our journeys home, running with a breeze that dried our tears, and by then the bleeding had stopped. They call our generation cynical, bleak and disaffected. It's true, some of us are messes, but we work hard, we play hard. Some of us still wear our rock concert T-shirts. Hell, some of us still go to the shows. You're not going to find any polyester in my closet, back row. We are the team players, pragmatic, assertive, no bullshit. Mental health wasn't talked about. We were told to get over it. And I'm not saying it wasn't that great. And now we have our fate, a generation of self-healers, of sadly deep wound feelers, some of us which found our ways to self-medicate just to get through our days. We grew up craving independence, not a lot of supervision. Both parents needed to work. and the world around us was changing so quickly. We adapted well, and and here we are again on the cusp of a big change. The world has been rearranged. Things might seem a little strange, but we got this. It's in our DNA. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. It is. It's in our DNA.
Yes!
And in our DNA. Yeah.
I love it. I love that you read that. You read that so well. Thank you. I would love hearing. You know what it is? You hear someone else read your
because
words.
someone else reading it's putting their own spin on it, and their own connection to it. You know, they're reading and they're going, and that's a great story. Because if somebody reads a story and they put themselves in the story, that's to them. It's for them. It's their gift. It's your gift. That's what poetry is, isn't it? It's your gift to somebody. You know, the story, the poem.
Well, and you know what? All art forms are a gift to the world, I believe. And I just have to say this one thing, Kirk, if you don't mind. I keep saying that. So Sue-Ann, who's been with us here the whole time, she was for the book, and I just want to show you this. I sent her pictures, so I commissioned her to do the artwork for the book of my kids' favorite toys, like the most special, precious items to them.
Fantastic! And how good is that?
Look at this.
Wow.
So it's just amazing. This is exactly my daughter's bunny. That's Boom Boom. There's Gary the squishy alien.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
My daughter's
and in years to come,
it's just beautiful.
They can look back at that in years to come and open the book up and remember that, can't they? And it's that being human. It's all of those quirky things. That cuddly toy. That's probably my daughter comes to visit me, and she's got this cuddly toy she's had since she was a baby, and it's got like a soggy ear, and she's nearly 12. She's nearly 12, and it's unique. It's that unique. When we watch social media now, everything's all pristine, and it's all there's no character, and I really miss. I think the real bravery is being genuine and having character, and then people can connect with that. And I think as human beings, we can see how false this perfect world we get delivered on media. Social media. Everyone's all they're all pristine. They're all on a TikTok doing this pristine thing. That it's not real. It isn't real. The reality is people that are showing their vulnerabilities and showing the dirty pots in the sink, and the car breaking down, and that's real, because everyone's got that. We don't all live perfect lives, and that will solve a lot of mental health problems, because this whole thing about, we talk about sanity, what makes us sane and what makes us insane. The only thing that makes us sane is checking in with other people. And when we check in with other people and give them our views and opinions, whether they accept it or not, if they're not accepting it, then you're pushed to the end of the tribe. And I think COVID was a great, a real shocker, because we all went into our isolation and we all ended up, looking at the world through these screens, and then all people had was perfect, pristine, perfect life, and then have emerged from COVID trying to keep up with these impossible expectations. And I feel really not worried for the younger generations. Yeah, they've got to be resilient. I mean, one of the biggest things I talk about is resilience. And with my story and talking about colleague stories and talking and being genuine with people is that, your life can fall apart. You can lose relationships, you can end up at rock bottom, but you can pick it back up again and go forward and build a new life. And there's this whole rebirth, the whole phoenix from the flames, this rebirth, and what can come out of that can be better. You've got this, the person's got to lose their job because the company's going bust. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about that. The company's going bust, you're going to lose your job. But it's about you being adaptable to change. You know, that's what we talk about in survival. You know, all survival is adapting. Yeah, you know, that's what that is. It's talking about,
Hold that
you
up
know,
again.
rolling with the punches. You talk about it in your poem. Your poem is about within your poem is survival. You know that you know you've been smashed up. There's no band-aid on call. There's no watchful eye. You're out there. You know a few miles away from home. You've fell down a cliff because you went on that blooming swing you shouldn't have gone on, and probably had a near-death experience.
All those things, yeah.
As we both did. But you know, that's the biggest growth tool that we've got, isn't it? You know, you can mollycoddle our people. I got it. The issue I've got with our military at the moment is mollycoddle. You know, we mollycoddle, and we're safe. But when we throw people out to do their work, how robust and resilient are they going to be when they go out to face the wolves? You know, and there's got to be some element of risk in that. You know, and yeah. I find it fascinating, and you know, even in your poem, I pick out the resilience, survival, adaptation to change thing that we've got, and you and I are both examples of that. You know, I've got my physical journey and my getting blown up in the desert. But I'm sure yours is its own journey. You know, you're a woman that stood there. I can see it. That's the thing, and the reason why we clicked and gelled. It's because you can see someone who's been through shit, you know. And the reason why we clicked and gelled, it's like almost like we've been through stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Been some shit, you know. And at the and it's so intuitive, you, and obviously because we both, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to articulate here. All I'm trying to say is that I want to have the best life that I can have. And yeah, there's been some shit, but you know, that survival thing that you've, you know, come to know, and that you have put your time and effort to, and to put this book out. You know, there was a great reel that I just saw recently, and it was like, what was, oh God, it was an old grandmother, and she was like, she was sitting around with some young kids.
Yeah.
And she goes, what do you mean, why did that happen to me? Why not you? What, you so special that it didn't happen to you. The point is, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but the point is, you have to move forward. So how do you move forward? How do you, you know, and it was that, anyway, it was extraordinary, and it was so poignant to me. And I thought, yeah, you know, there's been some rough patches, and this perspective as well. Like, everyone's got their own varying degrees of what was traumatic.
You talked about there about the
you know, when
the thing that's happened, and we're here and now, and forwards there, future's there, past is there. That thing happened there. If I'm now going to chain my life to that thing, that I'm now going to put myself in a worse place. And one of my biggest heartbreaks is within the British veterans community, is there are so many guys and girls out there that are stuck with the past, are stuck with that know what happened to them 10 years ago, what happened with them in the Falklands War, you know, they are caught up, and they're not living the best life they could live because they are trapped by the past. And I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counsellor, but I certainly know that if you can come to terms with your past and then move forward, and again, the part of writing that is just to put it all there, get it all out the way, you know, focus on the future. Do you know what are the issues I do have is because I've got a false arm, it becomes a topic of conversation. And fortunately and unfortunately, can do two things. I want to go forward and talk about new things and get on with my life, but then when this gets brought up, it always gets dragged back to that. But what I've learned to do is now go, well, actually, let's use it as a platform. You know, this thing happened to me. Let's use it as a positive platform. You know, it happened. All well and good. We can all dwell on that. That's now 10 years ago. Let's think about all the great things I've done since that happened. You know, what doors opened as a result. You know, people look at me and, you know, somebody, I remember the other day I was out and people felt sorry for me. I'm like, don't feel sorry for me. Don't feel sorry for me. I can do just as many things as you can do. I can still drive my car. I can teach survival. I can gut a pheasant. I can, you know, I can tie a knot. I can do anything you can do. So don't go feeling sorry for me, mate, because I can still kick your ass when it comes to stuff, you know. So don't, and that this, you know, you're pigeonholing people and people with disability. It's like just take each person on their own credit here and now, and because if you do that, then you're gonna deny somebody the opportunity of being their best. You know, being, you know, and this is all about mindset, and I'm a big advocate for trying to change people's mindset, especially on disability, especially on diversity. You know, all of that. You know, trying to get as many people the opportunity to live the best life they can. You know, because we all deserve it. I didn't tell you I'm a scout lead. Oh, let me get it. I'm gonna get it.
Oh my gosh.
So
okay, it's show and tell with Kirk again.
You got scouts in Canada, haven't you? Yeah. I'm a scout leader now. Look.
Scouts and
all right, so
and brownies and all that.
The scout group. Yeah, so I do scout. What do you reckon? So I'm loving it.
You look so.
I love it because it's just basically taking the future children and giving them the best experiences they can. You know, outdoor pursuits. You know, teamwork. You know, just doing acting, performing, making a play. You know, leading. It's just all of them things that make them better people. You know, better people in society. Care. You know, caring for one another, being a team player. God, I was at this adventure training camp, and there was some great activities. There's this rope swing where they had to pull each other up, and then they let the thing go, and they all swung down. This one kid wouldn't pull for everybody else. I said, "You've just been on the swing. You're not going to pull for anybody else." He's like, "Oh no, I don't do that sort of thing." I said, "Well, you know, it's not going to happen for you next time you swing, is it? You know." And he had to learn it. You know, you have to learn about teamwork. You know, this kid was 12 years old, and he hadn't learned about teamwork. He hadn't learned about being a team player, and you know, and that will shut so many doors in your life. You're only going to get so far in your life without being, you know, but not being a team player. You know, so I love it. I love it. God knows what they think of me.
I love it. I love that you do that, and that's amazing. One of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in my life. I wasn't the best student in high school. I was a big jock. Like, I love sports. I was a very physical person. You know, that's where I spent my energy. So I saw this poster walking to the counselor's office one day, and I was in grade 12.
Oh yeah.
And it was for Outward Bound Wilderness School. Get your grade 12 credit, you know, by going for 2 weeks in the summer to do. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm a nature girl. I'm a country girl. I'm totally doing that. Get a credit. Personal life management. So I went like Northern Ontario for 2 weeks. And I'll tell you, there was 5 girls, 5 boys, and we had our instructors, and we were like Northern Ontario. We had to canoe everywhere. And I'll tell you something. We had this big wooden wanigan where you put the pots that we needed to cook with. I was the one that carried that darn thing. I don't know what it was, because I refused to be, I don't know what it was, but nobody else wanted to carry it. So like, I'll carry it. I had to learn how to use a compass. I had to do all sorts of cool things. I learned how to light a fire. They left us alone. It was it was 21. How long was it? I can't remember. 3 days we had to spend isolated. So we all got to pick our spots. I was on a rock in the middle of nowhere, and
Yeah.
I don't like spiders. I'm a nature girl, but I do not like spiders. Okay, so I remember I was
Yeah,
worried about
moose
moose
can
because
get
I
pretty
made my
nasty.
little
Yeah, you don't want to get
tarp,
the wrong side of the moose. Yeah.
shelter.
And then,
Yeah, so I made my little my tarp like shelter
yeah,
in a clearing, and I thought this is probably a moose trail. I'm gonna get trampled. And then yeah, and the instructors would just drive by in the canoe every day, and the like, you okay? I'm like, I only have 2 minutes left. Help me!
Janaya,
But it was the best
you've got
time,
the
and I
best
got my
country
credit.
for it. I was over in Colorado again. I was over in Breckenridge up in the Rockies, and Canada it's just that's my playground. If I go to Canada, you've got Wainwright, you can go to the Rocky Mountains over towards Vancouver. I am as a survival instructor. That is my. I just get me in the woods, just get me out there, build a log cabin, and off I go. And I love that. And that's you just being at one with the planet. Being at one with the planet. Just getting out there, seeing the stars. I teach people astronaut, and I've got 23, 24-year-old people who've never seen a constellation, never seen the North Star, never seen the Milky Way. And I'm like, guys, you got it all. It's all here. It's all around you. North, you should never not know where north is, and I love that. And so I did take for granted all of my travels around the planet. Living in the jungle, living on in the desert. Going out to South America, Canada. I mean, the amount of times I spent on the prairies. Did you know I had a conversation? I remember sitting in Canada and I'm on duty, and a prairie dog pops out of a hole, and I'm so tired, it has a conversation with me in Canadian because I'm hallucinating, right? So I'm sitting there with this prairie dog, and it's going, "You're right, you," and I'm going, "Hello, you're right. I'm Kirk from England." And I'm sitting there in the middle of the prairie, but I'm sitting in the prairies, and this is over. Where were we? We were over Medicine Hat Way, right out on it's just basically grassland, and there's one tree in the middle of nowhere, and the northern lights are flickering down. It's bloody gorgeous, northern lights are there. And then the next day, you guys will know about this. It's like a switch has been flicked, and there's like 6 foot of snow, and it's like it's just amazing. I love it. That for me, I love living in countries like that. That's normal for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, I'm waiting. I'm waiting to come back over. I'll be back over soon, and then I'll be back over with my satchel over my back and my survival kit and my flint and steel for making fire in the woods and stuff. Fishing kit.
Yeah. Well, you could be proof. Like you should do like some sort of like I don't know. You've got some stuff on your page. Everybody, please, if you're not following Kirk, check out his page. Just hit the little arrow and follow him. It's really easy to do. Ewan is here. Thank you both for your insights. Wonderful prairie dog story.
Oh, let me show you this. So this was my family. The rest of my family live over in Vancouver, and my cousin Stan, he drew this. This is the Canadian. So this is original Canadian heritage. There you go. So you got the old proper the mask, and then he drew this. This was it was a mask drawer. This is called Eagle Steals the Sun. There you go. Yeah, real native. Yeah. So that's the history. Yeah, my family are all So he got really into the sort of native arts, doing the stuff like that. I love that. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is absolutely fun, and I love that you actually have some very strong roots here in Canada already. And I think my friend Adrian has left, but my friend Adrian lives out on the west coast of Vancouver.
Yeah, they're not.
And he
It's
loves
nuts
to swim
out
in
there.
freezing
Absolutely
cold
nuts.
temperatures
Good
every day.
skiing.
He does
Really good skiing, though. Really good skiing. Thank you. My uncle had a lodge up in the mountains, and we'd go up into the mountains, and they moved out there in the 1950s, and there was one street in Vancouver which was all British expats that lived out there. I remember we had a raccoon in the backyard, and they basically it was surrounded by high-rise tower blocks. And I remember going to visit him. I was over in Seattle, and we went on the Greyhound bus up to visit him there, and it was just like this one street that was stuck in the 1950s, and they wouldn't sell up, and it was just this amazing. It must all be gone by now, but it was like, no, we're stuck here. This is our place, and it's like really nice. It's this expat community out there. Love it. I love it. I love that.
I love that too. I love that history. I think that's why so many of us here from the continent love to go to Europe and see that history. We have some of it here, but like Montreal's got some beautiful old buildings, and that has built.
Most history's on the west coast, right?
History is just
the older buildings were all the older estates and buildings were all on the west coast, weren't they? Because then everybody headed east to go and.
I'm not sure. I've only been Vancouver once. I don't know how much history is there
Yeah.
as far as those buildings. I've seen some on Ontario, Montreal. Yeah. I think there was a big influx from New York.
You've got a real diversity
so
over there.
There's a lot.
You got the French Canadians. You got the Dutch. You got Dutch settlements there as well that all moved over. Yeah.
We've got a lot of everything, and I know here in Toronto, like there's definitely the little areas, like we've got Little Italy, where people tend to gather.
What I loved about Toronto when I visited was when you go to the old part of it, it's all the red brick where the Canadian stage was. That all the architecture is just like Manchester. So all of the old architecture in Manchester up north, Industrial Revolution. Red brick buildings. It's like they've just literally picked it up and moved it to Canada. They've just gone pink and moved it over.
Well, and we've taken a lot of our street names and our town names from the old country.
Hey, we're in Scarborough.
Yeah.
Scarborough, over here in England, Scarborough is like a really cheesy holiday, and you go and have your deck chair and fish and chips. It's like a really bad holiday, Scarborough.
It's like I'm not.
It's where the old days go on holiday.
Here.
You get lots of seagulls.
All right, my friend, we're going to run out of room to record soon. So I was wondering, I could sit here and chat
I
with
want
you
to share one more thing with you. Can I talk about my acting? What's coming up for me acting wise? Yeah. So I'm going to be in the last season of The Crown coming up soon. I think it's going to finish on the Charles Camilla wedding. So we're going to be filming at York Minster and King's College, Cambridge, which is going to be really good. And I'm also in this local theatre production here in Grantham where I am. Clue. You know the film Clue, the murder mystery one. I'm playing Colonel Mustard so I've got to grow a moustache for that. And I'm going to play Colonel Mustard, yeah.
You're playing Colonel Mustard?
It's great. It's good fun. At least I don't die. And I'm also in this local sea shanty band. We do sea shanties now. So I'd love to finish on basically a lot of the sea shanties were down on the like Cornwall, Devon, all that sort of way. And this is basically the Cornish national anthem. And what happened was the boss in charge of Cornwall was arrested by the king in the 1600s, and they went to basically go and raid London to go and try and get him back. So this is called the Trelawney National Anthem. Can I sing it for you? Yeah. Okay, here we go. A good sword and a trusty hand, a merry heart and true. King James's men shall understand what Cornish lads can do. And have they fixed the where and when, and shall Trelawney die? Here's 20,000 Cornish men, you'll know the reason why. And shall Trelawney live, and shall Trelawney die? Here's 20,000 Cornish men, you'll know the reason why. Out spake the captains brave and bold, and merry wight was he. If London Tower were Michael's hold, he'd set Trelawney free. We'll cross the Tamar land and sea, and Severn is no stay. With one and all in hand, we shall thus bid us nay. And shall Trelawney live, and shall Trelawney die? Here's 20,000 Cornish men, you'll know the reason why. And when they come on London's wall, a pleasant sight to view, come forth, ye cowards, all his men as good as you. Trelawney he is kept and hold, Trelawney he may die. Here's 20,000 Cornish bold, you'll know the reason why. And shall Trelawney live, and shall Trelawney die? Here's 20,000 Cornish men, you'll know the reason why. Cheers. So, quite a lot of people in England in the 1600s didn't like the king. So, there were lots of. So I'm a northerner. I'm from Manchester, and yeah, there was like in our history, they sent a whole load up when they all rioted, and we were all pretty much slaves in the UK. If you weren't royalty, you were slaves. So yeah, that's the cultural divide, and it's still there. We've still got a massive class divide in the UK. You know what goes on, and I think after we've just Brexited, haven't we?
Yeah,
oh no, I need to top up.
Wait,
that's what I did. Let me take a drink. Cheers, my lady. And she's still on the Guinness as well. Did you know you were drinking Guinness our first night out?
This
Did you do this during lockdown, did you?
This is my internet pub. Oh, in the poetry, I found this poetry community. We were live. We were all like,
it was so
out.
good. There were so many things that people got to. Quiz nights. People did quiz stuff. I did. It, you know, for me, because I was quite isolated during my service because we'd be away on tour and you get into little routines. I actually really loved lockdown. It was great for me. It's like a breather. It gave me a really good breather and allowed me to relax. And I think going on to do the survival work was like, right, I'm ready. What's next? Bush, off we go. So, as you said, you know, I'm now survival instructing, acting, you know, writing, poetry, as you say. They all go well. They go well together. Don't you think they all? They're logical, aren't they? They're a logical combination. You don't think? I think they are. I think they sit well together.
Well, okay, but I'm with you. This is another reason why we get along so much. Sorry, I'm losing my red curtain. I was in university. I was playing varsity basketball. I was a jock.
Yeah.
So I was lit the acting thing. I was a jock. I was playing varsity basketball, soccer player. You know, anchor on the beer chug team in Frosh Week. You know, that was me. I was a small town girl. Who happens to be an actor? Like, it just, you know, who came into acting, and it's just a weird combination. Like, normally you think, okay, it's gonna be the kids studying phys ed, or, you know, that play the sports in school. Yeah, my left, right. I don't know what side of the brain is athletic, but I know that my right side, which is the artistic side, definitely strong side.
Yeah, and there's people. So my sister was very good at languages. So I'm right-handed, and I was very good at physical and drawing and doing all that. And she's very good with languages and people skills because she's a lefty and righty, and I do believe that. And there's communication things in there. I talk about, we talk about children. So I was in a. Do you have pantomimes in Canada? Do you have panto? So I have to explain to your listeners what panto is.
We must.
What pantomime? So it's basically, if you've got like the Grimm's Tales at Christmas, we scare our kids with the Grimm's Tales. So you'll have like Cinderella or you have to, and basically it's a fairy tale, and then we all do it in the local theatre, and it's all very funny, and there's loads of acting. There's always a dame. It's the usual traditional thing, but it's like a community thing. And I played Jack Frost in the local panto last year, and my kids came to watch it, and since then they've both decided this summer to do Cats, and they're both now in Cats. And they're both performing in Cats, and so I'm not seeing them this weekend. It's Easter weekend because they're in a run at the moment, and there are two of them that since I've seen them, they're like, "Oh, we're in rehearsals, we're doing this, focused." You know, my daughter's got lines in the play, my son's doing dancing, and they're 6 and 12. They're both acting and performing in the play, and they're both, as a result of seeing me on stage, they want to go and do it. And it's like, well, and if they do that. And they can stand on stage, as kids and dance and perform because they see the parent do it, then that'll make them bigger. It's going to...
Yeah.
When you see your parent doing something, and that becomes the norm, then for them, they're going to go, well, I could do better than that. Kids are going to go, I could do better than my dad. Because it's a challenge. Go on, then do better than me, son. Yeah.
And it also shows them that they can think outside the box. And I have to tell you that my daughter, there's a video on my page, the kid's dad, very generously recorded.
Will he be a part of all of that, will he?
And
is he in there?
We're at his house opening the book.
Okay. Right. Okay.
He's not. I didn't want to interrupt one.
Okay.
It's very family friendly, but so the kid's dad, though, he recorded the kids opening my book, and it made it real for them opening my book because it came from Amazon. So now it wasn't just like me telling them I wrote a book. It was like, oh, this came from the store. It's in a package, right? So so there's this video, and what was I going to say? Oh, yes. So my daughter, she's an artist. She loves to draw. Yeah. She's really good. She loves anime, Japanese anime, all that stuff. So she won't see this, so I can say this. So for her birthday, I'm going to take all her sketches and order a photo album.
Do it.
And make her feel like she has a book.
There's something that she can go. And that's the seed that's sown. And when she types into Google and goes... And then there'll be this thing that's on there online, or there's something on there. It's like, hey, I've got a product. I'm now somebody. Yeah. There's a seed sown, and what's the next thing you're going to make? Yeah. What's the next thing you're going to produce? And that's what I love about this is we've got no excuse now for not creating things. We've got Amazon. We can self-author. People can now do music. They can go online and actually, instead of going to a producer and having to pay a fortune and end up in debt, you can produce your own music and get yourself onto a platform. Everyone's got the chance to. There's a niche, and if you put the effort in, and it's this whole. It's about consistency, isn't it? Just consistently do it, and it's funny. You will get a following. People will, they'll. I get feedback. And it's funny because I shared something the other day, and then I had somebody turn around to me and said I was inspired by it. And I was like, wow, did I inspire somebody? It's like, what have I done to inspire somebody? It's like, and it was like a friend. I was like, oh my God, did I? And then I did a podcast a couple of weeks back on Company of Makers, which Tip organised. And off the back of that, 3 of my work colleagues came into work and said, I listened to your podcast on the way into work this morning. And I was like, oh really? Did you? I said, yeah. He said, I was encapsulated. I was like, what? I was like, that was amazing. That was such And they'd already heard my story. They'd heard it a dozen times once. Because I'd told it to a different person and it was a different delivery and it was on the radio and it was on, you can stream a podcast.
Yeah.
You can listen to a podcast on the radio going to work, which I love. I love that because you're driving the car, you want to be entertained and you don't listen to drivel news and doom and gloom. You want to listen to something positive and and uplifting. And it was like they'd chosen me. They'd chosen 40 minutes of me. It's like, wow, I'm touched by that. It's really amazing.
I totally understand why you would feel that way. Absolutely, and well served. And on that note, I
oh my gosh, it's still
we could talk all night, but I'm only
it's 1:45 in the morning. It's 1:45 in the morning. Janaya,
I'm not saying
I'm in your future.
Rest, but you're probably ready for some
future.
sleep, but
I'm 5 hours. I'm 5 hours in your future.
You are.
I'm over here.
Yeah. But you've also
I'm 4 years in your past and 5 hours in your future.
Be connected, my friend.
Yeah, it's been that long. It's like a blink, wasn't it?
4 years.
So much has happened. So good to catch up.
See your face,
really is. Hopefully, I'll see you in person again soon. Yeah, I'm gonna visit. I'll come to you. You come to London. Either way.
Congratulations. Something. I have a travel partner now, so we've got things on our bucket list. So maybe we'll make our way.
I'm going to come to Toronto again
because I've got
so
other
many people
there.
To see and say hello to.
Please ring me when you do.
Sure. So
can you please show us your books one more time before we say good night?
And put them side by side with my head above them. With my dodgy hand.
Kirk Bowett, veteran, action man, survival instructor, actor, author, amazing human. Please check out his books. Guys, please check out his books.
Thank you. Good night, sweetheart. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay.
Let's say good night.
Bye.
That's so much fun. Thank you so much.